Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. My name is Annette Emanuel, and I'm the Public Policy Director with the ACLU of Maryland. The Maryland Coalition for Justice and Police Accountability is calling on the Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review Committee to hold a public hearing on the proposed emergency regulations and ask that the committee exercise their authority to instruct the Commission to further revise their regulations prior to approving them. We strongly object to the Commission proposing eligibility requirements and membership requirements for the PAB, the Police Accountability Board, and the Administrative Charging Committee, and believe that by doing so, the Commission is overstepping the local governing body's role in establishing the membership for the PAB and the ACC. The Maryland Police Accountability Act of 2021 gives the local governing body of each county the power to establish the membership of a police accountability board. This decision by the General Assembly recognizes the importance of allowing local communities to determine their own membership criteria requirements through their elected officials. And these efforts should be left up to the local jurisdictions, not the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission. The people elect our legislators to represent our community's best interests, and we do not elect the members of this commission. Furthermore, the regulations include provisions like mandatory confidentiality agreements that will hamper the PAB's ability to act as an independent oversight board, and membership requirements that prohibit community members who have been formally incarcerated from serving on this board, which is especially problematic in our coalition strongly opposes, especially because a lot of these folks have already served their time in debt to society, and a lot of times are the same people who are directly impacted by over-policing and police misconduct. The community should not be robbed of the opportunity to provide public comments on such critical regulations, and the members of the AELR should carefully consider these concerns and provide the public with an open and transparent process. And next, you will hear from some of our coalition partners who elaborate more on why these provisions are harmful to our police accountability efforts. So next, we'll hear from Stephen Waddy, who is with the Anne Arundel NAACP.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Waddy. I'm with the Anne Arundel County NAACP. Our Maryland State Conference president has joined us here today, Willie Flowers. I'm here on behalf of Jack LeBoon, also the president of the Anne Arundel County NAACP. And I'm here calling for a public hearing on these emergency regulations. NAACP joins the ACLU, CASA, and other organizational members of the Maryland Coalition for Justice and Police Accountability in calling for a public hearing on these emergency regulations that have come out of the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. In 2020, following the murders and subsequent cover-ups of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor, all whose names have been in the news this week, the state of Maryland saw an unprecedented protest movement across the state demanding that lawmakers end systemic racism in law enforcement. The movement was a moment that showed why we must consistently reject law enforcement's narrative that it can police itself. Police cannot police themselves. And the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission is a prime example of when we let police police themselves, they will do whatever they can to protect the thin blue line. In Anne Arundel County, we formed a coalition to address the passage of our county's Police Accountability Board. Our coalition included organizations that support the formerly incarcerated and organizations run by people with prior convictions, including the United Black Clergy. Our coalition fully opposed any bans on formerly incarcerated people from participating on the Police Accountability Board or any administrative charging committee. We here today have come together again to oppose those same provisions that have come out of the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission banning formerly incarcerated people in these regulations. First, these exclusionary rules exacerbate the racial disparities by both banning a higher proportion of Black and brown people, but also sending a discouraging message that some people are qualified to have a say in policing and others, ironically, those most impacted, do not. According to the Justice Policy Institute, more than 70% of all people in Maryland's prisons, double the national average, and almost 80% of people serving at least 10 years in the state of Maryland are Black. These are the highest rates in the country, easily eclipsing the next closest state, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Georgia. The state of Maryland has the highest incarceration rate in the nation of Black men aged 18 to 24, while the second highest incarceration rate for Black men is in Mississippi. It's wrong. From a moral and spiritual standpoint, it's wrong for us to include any bans on formerly incarcerated people from participating on administrative charging committees. We believe in the potential of human beings to learn from their mistakes, to choose to lead productive lives, and to see ourselves in each other. If you believe that you are capable of overcoming mistakes, then as a human being, we must extend that same grace and mercy to our fellow residents. Second, through a public hearing process, individual jurisdictions should be left to determine whether and to what degree any criminal legal involvement might make an individual incapable of fulfilling their duties. This should be decided at the local level. It should not be decided by an unelected police-led board at the state level. We've all in this crowd argued locally to ban these types of provisions. And now we're here again, as I said, to make sure that the AELR listens to us to continue to fight against this at the state level. Finally, members of individuals' jurisdictions' governing body are perfectly capable of engaging in whatever practices they deem necessary to gain the information they need to screen their applicants. Requiring criminal background checks and social media account reviews is a gross overstep by this commission. It is both unnecessary and contrary to the express language of the Maryland Police Accountability Act for the commission to tell local jurisdictions how to run their appointment process. Thank you so much. Get back to you now.
Thank you, Stephen. And next we'll hear from Lydia Rodriguez with CASA Maryland.
Thank you, Annette. My name is Lydia Walker Rodriguez, and I am the Region Director with CASA in Central Maryland and the co-convener for the Campaign for Justice, Safety, and Jobs, a Baltimore-based coalition that fights for police accountability. In the past couple of months, Baltimore City elected officials heard directly from dozens upon dozens of Baltimore residents who attended each Police Accountability Board hearing to demand and ensure that there was no limitations into the memberships, which would exclude directly impacted community members who are most likely to suffer misconduct or brutality by police, to ensure that all community members could serve on this board and feel and trust a process that they themselves would be submitting their police misconduct complaints to. It was a tireless effort of Baltimore activists that led to a PAB in Baltimore City, which ended with ensuring that immigrants and returning citizens can not only be nominated, but also serve on the PAB boards. We also ensured through these countless hearings that any language that limited immigrants or returning citizens into the administrative charging committees was struck down. We were able to do this on the local level, and not only do it on the local level, to ensure that other counties could continue fighting in this way. It is appalling to hear that an unelected commission is now trying to undermine community efforts and community fights. And it is appalling to hear that backdoor meetings are affecting the future of police oversight and accountability. We are here today to ensure that there is a public hearing and a transparent process that will allow community members and their voices to continue to be engaged, and for these local municipalities to be the leaders that we elected to ensure the process and the oversight of police accountability boards and administrative charging committees and its future. So we are calling for a public hearing and transparency and no more behind closed doors transactions. Thank you.
And next we'll hear from William Rao with the Caucus of African Americans.
Thank you. And thank you, Jeanette. And thank you all for being here and standing strong on this issue. We are only having this conversation because it has proven to be necessary that we provide oversight of law enforcement. But today what I wanted to do, my name is William Rao. I'm a resident of the city of Annapolis. I also work on Police Accountability Board issues, as well as working in the mayor's office as the mayor's senior advisor. What I want to say today is imposing the exact same unethical, unjust, and exclusionary methodology that led us to create a police accountability board to begin with is being applied by the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission for the Police Accountability Board and its charging committee. We believe that this is yet another underhanded attempt to restrict and silence the voices of the most policed populations in our state. We also believe that the commission should not overstep its authority or cause further confusion and harm by issuing suggestive requirements that may not reflect the values of the individual communities as determined by the local governing bodies and as specified in the MPAA. This is again, as Stephen Waddy said, another case of police attempting to police themselves. Holding law enforcement agencies accountable is important for maintaining the public's faith in our system. This will never happen if the membership is not truly representative of the full public. We ask that the committee direct the commission to remove the Police Accountability Board eligibility and membership requirements, and we ask for a hearing on this subject. Thank you.
And next we'll hear from Rob Landau with the Silver Spring Social Justice Coalition.
Thank you, Yannette. My name is Rob Landau. I'm with the Silver Spring Justice Coalition. The Silver Spring Justice Coalition was established after the unwarranted killing by police of Robert White in 1918. And since then in Montgomery County, there have been 8 other killings by police of unjustified nature. So we are therefore calling upon members, or even one member of the Joint Commission, to call for an emergency meeting to hear the grievances and concerns of the community. And we want to stress that the law that was passed in 2021 specifically said that the local jurisdictions, the county councils and the city, would have the ability to make these important decisions. And that has been taken away from them by the police chiefs and police sheriffs who serve on this joint commission that established these regulations. So just one example, one of the requirements is that anyone who serves on the Police Accountability Board must sign a confidentiality agreement that essentially muzzles them from talking to the public and to the community about any issue until all the appeals have been exhausted. That flies in the face of the community needs. It flies in the face of what the statute calls for, and it reiterates the fact that the police commission is simply trying to muzzle community input and call for oversight of police. Thank you.
And last we'll hear from Willie Flowers, president of the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP.
Good afternoon. I'm Willie Flowers with the Maryland State Conference, NAACP Maryland State Conference. We're here in support of the coalition in every way on this extremely important issue when it comes down to police accountability, but more importantly, on the issue of training and local control. Because what we've seen specifically in counties like Howard County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, what we've seen is while we've changed laws that are revolutionary to an extent when it trickles down to local police districts, particularly when you talk about training. They still keep the same systemic challenges and the same people that are involved with not just training, but recruitment in the first place. And if you look at the details of that in all of these places, there are extreme challenges with not just diversity in training, um, creating challenges for people to even participate with the process, good people to participate with the process of becoming a police officer, the bullying tactics, the traditional ways of weeding people out. And that's why this accountability board is extremely important. It should be systemic so that local control is the order of the day. And the way it's set up now, we will not have success. So we support the coalition in these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any at this time.
Yeah, can you talk about kind of where things stand legislatively? Do these proposals or do these regulations need legislative approval to go into effect?
So the way the process works is that if the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission, once they develop these regulations, they have to be approved by the Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Review Committee. That hasn't officially happened yet. Part of the delay has been because the committee has been waiting on the Department of Legislative Services to provide them an analysis of the regulations, which they received last week and should now be taking action any time now. And before that happens, we want to make sure that there's an actual public hearing and that there's a transparent process and they're actually carefully considering our concerns.
Thanks.
For the public hearing, you're saying you want one. Do you have any idea of like a date or anything like that? When you really want it now? So what are you saying?
So before they approve it, we're asking that there's a public hearing held prior to that, because another concern of ours is that according to the statute, there's no mandatory quorum or majority that's needed to approve these regulations. There only needs to be an attempt. So the staff makes an attempt in contacting members, and if they don't show up or they're not responsive, they can go ahead and approve these regulations. So these are too important to just let side, quietly pass by. And so we want to make sure that the members are present, they're alert and aware of what our concerns are, and are carefully considering them prior to approving, and that they utilize and exercise the authority that they have to push back against these regulations and requiring the MPTSC to do further revisions prior to.
One of the other things that was charging power and officers who may have been in a situation where they're I guess the jurisdiction is estimated determination about what they've done, but you feel that the board, the ACC committee, should still have that too.
Yeah, if there's new evidence that comes out, or somebody brings forth new information, and that could change the punishment that the officer receives, or changes whether or not the officer does receive punishment, the administrative charge committee should still be able to review that and make a decision to push up for a harsher punishment or whatever it would be. But we don't believe that double jeopardy applies here, and so there shouldn't be any broad prohibition against them reconsidering these new facts of information.
Can you talk about where things stand with the implementation of the 2021 law? I just double checked to refresh my memory, and it said that things should have gone into effect on July 1st. Like, where do things stand with that?
So with the Police Accountability Board, most jurisdictions have passed local legislation to implement it. They're now in the phase of actually recruiting and finding people to serve on these boards. But some jurisdictions, especially out on the Eastern Shore, have not. So there are still some jurisdictions that are delayed. And some boards who have passed local legislation, but again, these boards are not up and running. And these regulations were supposed to be enacted prior to July 1st. So they've been delayed. And then they called for an emergency process because they're delayed. And because it's an emergency process, it allows them to bypass the 30-day mandatory public comment period, which is another concern of ours, because they're just able to just quickly move through this. And we're arguing that some of these regulations are completely unnecessary to begin with, and shouldn't be left to the commission to draft.
And the commissions that have met received these regulations.
Right.
The Anne Arundel County Commission met in July, and they received these regulations in their meeting packet as if the regulations had been approved by the AELR. So that further speaks to the need for a public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to get shot.